Play at Novabet.
Hello and a warm welcome to the Irish Angle in association with Novibet. As usual, I've Emma Nagle, Johnny Ward here, and we're going to chat about all things racing, particularly the Irish end of it, but some of the UK stuff too that was important last week. Emma, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vincent.
Now, first off, Emma, well done to Cork. You went to Croke Park yesterday. Fun day, I'd say.
I did. Trips to Coral Park now as a Cork supporter are fewer and farther between than when I was younger now, but yeah, it was a brilliant day. God, just the whole occasion of it. I think being Limerick as well. I've been to plenty of matches in Coral Park, but it's definitely up there with the best. To end the drive for 5 was fairly satisfying now, and it looks like a good, strong, up and coming Cork team. A lot of young players in there, and yeah, looking forward to the final now. Kind of scrambling for tickets is the next worry.
Yeah, I had a look at half time. I was watching the match up in the pub and look at half time. 11-2 on Betfair. You could have backed Cork at half time. There you go. Hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? Johnny, how was your week? You went racing a few days, did you?
I did. I hadn't been racing for about 3 weeks, and it was funny. I had 3 meetings in a row, and I think they were all 8 race cards. So I was kind of back with a bang. And I give out about this before, but like I still find the flat cards with 35-minute gaps, 8 races. I just find it really drags the life out of the day. But yesterday at Sligo, Bellewstown was fantastic. Other than that, I thought there was a great atmosphere there. Really good racing, like proper racing, flat and national hunt. And yesterday I was in Sligo, and I thought there was just some great finishes there. We did and it was a lovely day now, in fairness, but there was some buzz around the place, and every time you'd walk into the parade ring, there was like a scrum around the parade ring for, a fairly run-of-the-mill meeting in Sligo, and it felt great. But I got the train down. I like getting the train to Sligo because it's a lovely journey, but you can do your work on the train. So I was doing my bit of form study on the train, but I was kind of humming and hawing. How will I get back to Dublin? Because I didn't have a lift back to Dublin. So Dave Keenan was doing the parade ring, and he says to me, "Sure, I'll drop you as far as Mullingar." So I said, "Grand, sure, I'll go to Mullingar and I'll get the train from Mullingar." And next thing he takes this he says, "Do you know what? We'll see if this pub is open." It's essentially where my father is from, a pub called Gunnings, and I mean now this was in the middle of nowhere, somewhere between Mullingar and somewhere that isn't Mullingar, but it was like literally in the middle of Ireland. I'd never been within an ass's roar of this place before, and Dave is like, "I'm not sure if this pub's even open anymore." But we came to the pub, and it's like, Dave says, first of all, the pub is open, and there must have been about 50 cars parked in it. And I said, there's a crowd here for some reason. We went in, and one leg of Foster and Allen was in a trad session in the pub. Mick Foster had a trad session. It was a pub from like from the 19th century. We had 3 or 4. I had 3 or 4 pints of Guinness. Dave was on the 7-Up, and it was the most fun, impromptu, unexpected kind of trip to a rural Ireland pub ever. And Mick Foster took a shine to us. So it was an amazing end to 3 great days of racing. And that line in The Simpsons, who likes the Doobie Brothers? Because we've got one of them. Well, we had one of Foster and Allen yesterday. So thanks to Dave Keenan for making my weekend.
Very good stuff. They used to have horses too, didn't they, Foster and Allen, as far as I remember?
They did.
The racing, yeah.
They did. And just to mention there was a bit of racing chat in the pub yesterday. We met one of the Turf Club lads' dad as well, Paul Murtaugh's dad. He was very friendly, and he was chatting away to us. And just to mention as well, I really do want to laud the Irish racing the way it's run. Like the hurling was on the big screen at the race in Sligo. And I remember going to English race meetings before, and I think Liverpool were playing Man United. There was nowhere to watch it at an English race meeting. And here you had, when they weren't showing the horses, they'd Cork and Limerick on, and everyone was glued to it. And it really adds to the whole occasion that you feel like you're not missing out. And I think the Cork Galway double is on, Emma.
I hope so.
Yeah, you talk about racing with big screens, with showing matches and that. I remember being in Kilbeggan when Ireland were in the Italian 90 World Cup, and the penalty shootout and everything else, and I was returning starting prices. I remember I was the only person in the whole parade ring as the race was about to go off, as everyone was in the bars watching the match. Not a single person saw the race that day, only me. Anyway, we shall move on to bigger stuff and better stuff. The Eclipse, City of Troy. What you make of it, Emma?
Look, it was definitely a bit of a deflating race. I suppose even on the build up to it, everyone was kind of getting excited for White Birch versus City of Troy. That was kind of the big talking point of it. White Birch pulled out late. I think bad blood results, kind of the same as Royal Ascot, which was a disappointment. And then the race came, And like looking at the quality of the field, like to say fair play to Johnny, he called the race fairly correct. He tipped up Alriff at big price each way on the Friday form scan show, but like I was expecting City of Troy to blow them all out of the water, to be honest. Like I think the second and third home were both rated 112, City of Troy rated 124. Like getting all the weight from them, like he should have put them to bed very, very easily. Like there is, but I do think there is kind of reasonable enough excuses for him. Like watching the race coming around the home bend, I think, you know, everyone kind of saw he took a bit of a false step and he had to get back into his stride. He hung up the whole way up the straight. Then again, talking to a few people who were in Sandown, they were describing the ground as kind of Irish soft, which would you know, be a lot softer than what we'd expect when they call it soft in over in the UK. But look, he's going to have to come back and do better than that to kind of live up to the superstar. But I wouldn't be maybe as negative on him as other people online. I've seen him getting kind of awful slatings. I think there is excuses to be made, but it was definitely a deflating performance, I think, for the City of Troy fans.
Yeah, when you hear Ryan Moore saying he'd expected to win 10 lengths, you don't normally hear a jockey say that after a race. He was a little bit disappointed, but obviously the hype is still there because it's in a big way. When you see John and Sue Magner turning up as well, John Magner, he's been out 2 days running now. I've seen him at the races. Johnny, what do you make of it? Is City of Troy the real deal?
Well, like when you look at the Derby, he beat horses that finished in a bit of a heap in the Irish Derby, and he beat them well. But this was taking on the older horses, and to be fair, historically, Derby winners in the Eclipse, they can struggle. You know, you look back at what was Sea the Stars won in 2009. We've had one winner since won the Derby and won this, but I don't feel he was at his best on the day. Like I wouldn't be too harsh on him at all. It was workmanlike, but I don't feel that's his ground. You know, and if they're talking about going on the dirt, that's going to be really fascinating. And he has quite a unique stride, and I'd imagine that they'll be able to tell that he will want ideally faster ground, and they'll have a fair idea if he's going to handle the dirt if they do try that. But like he hung quite badly, and I think kind of guts actually prevailed a little bit. Like Alriff is a very good horse, but to be fair, like he was giving him what, 10 pounds, and Alriff like hasn't won since his 2-year-old days, so like it was hardly, and he beat Ghostwriter another length. It was hardly particularly impressive, like, but I'm with Emma here. I don't feel the horse was at his best on the day, and I'd more than willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'd love to see him rock up in the Champion Stakes and Good to Firm or something like that. Maybe an even truer run race as well with a bigger field. You know, it was a 6-runner race with an 80-to-1 shot making the run, and that obviously was effectively ignored by everyone else, and they didn't go mad fractions. So I'd be prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think with the way that he races, he's just a better horse and better ground. But he did win the Eclipse. Like, let's not knock him. He's after winning the Derby and the Eclipse. He beat the older horses. But I do feel that like that wasn't his best performance. And it's fascinating, Ryan Moore, to say that. Like that's quite thought provoking. And I don't know what Aidan O'Brien's true opinion is, but I imagine he'll soon proffer that like he's better than what he showed at Sandown.
I agree there that the guts prevailed as well. Like you kind of, I think good horses kind of always find a way to win, don't they? And you kind of showed a different side to him, I suppose. He was able to battle going up the straight when things didn't go right. So if you're going to take maybe one positive out of the race, that might be it. But yeah, like I think Juddmonte International Irish Champion Stakes, hopefully he might meet White Birch at one of those and be a better spectacle, I suppose. For
I was very disappointed, Vinny, that White Birch was scratched. Like as I was saying on the show last week, I really, really look forward to this race, and I feel like the whole White Birch story, the fact that he's a belated kind of star, that like, you know, he wasn't a top class 3-year-old. He was very good, but he genuinely looks a really, really top class performer this year. And I felt like the betting, as it was earlier in the week, underestimated him big time. Like I thought it was the greatest each way bet to nothing, the price he was, and that took away from it a lot. But I'd love to see the two of them, as I say, rock up in the Champion Stakes against each other. Be a hell of a race.
Now, what about White Birch? Will we see the horse again? That's the question, isn't it? After missing 2 engagements now, bad bloods each time, like it's a worry, isn't it? There's obviously something seriously wrong with the horse that he's had bad blood for several weeks in a row. What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, it's a worry now. I haven't been talking to anyone involved with the horse or anything like that, but look, hopefully he'll come back soon. I'm just looking through what he's entered in. He's entered in the Juddmonte and the Champion Stakes. I don't know how serious the whole thing is. Like you said, being kind of ongoing for a few weeks is a bit of a worry. So hopefully he'll be back, and hopefully to clash with City of Troy at some stage, because I think it's kind of one that everyone kind of wants to see, because he looks like the kind of one of the star older horses, and it's always good to see them come up against the kind of the superstar trio. So look, hopefully we'll see it later on in the season anyway.
Yeah, hopefully so. For a small yard as well, it'd be fantastic to see him in the big races. Moving on, back on Saturday again in the UK, we'd Haydock. 3 races abandoned. They'd only a 4-race card in the end because there was a problem with the ground. really frustrating for everyone involved, not just the jockeys and trainers and those at home watching it, but the people who paid in as well. It's a mess of a day for everyone, isn't it, Johnny? What do you make of those sort of days?
Like I had a big sympathy for Haydock here because like the ground staff and the racecourse manager and all of that, they will take the flak for this. But like I was watching it. I was at Bellewstown, so I was kind of watching on. I didn't know why there was a delay in the first place because there were some interesting races there. And then you kind of read what happened. But like what Oisin Murphy said, like we had a massive downpour on the way back yesterday, and it was kind of one of these local showers where it's become very, very hard for forecasters to predict weather because it can literally there could be flash flooding here and 2 miles down the road, nothing. And they were expecting, by what Oisin Murphy said, they were expecting rain that just didn't come. And so then they were in a bit of a quandary in relation to the ground. It is an absolute mess, but I don't think people have any idea how difficult it is for ground staff with the way the climate is at the moment. It's extremely volatile. It's been a nightmare sort of 12 months for ground staff in general, and I've sympathy for Haydock, but this is not going to go away, this sort of issue. It's going to be very, very hard for ground staff going forward.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to another one. Aelia, the Oaks winner, impressive Oaks winner as well. We're not going to see her again. What do you think of this, Emma? Pity, really, isn't it?
Yeah, an awful pity, really. I suppose we hadn't seen a whole pile of her before the Oaks. She was kind of maybe a bit of a surprise well, maybe not a surprise, but like she was kind of announced herself, I suppose, as kind of one of the star trios. And yeah, look, I was surprised to see the news, but it kind of sounded as if it would have been a fair scramble to get her back this year. And having an Oaks winning filly, it's probably the safer choice to make if she did get a bad knock like that. But it's a massive pity because she did kind of she put on a massive performance in Epsom that day, so it's never nice, and it's kind of one of the things about the flat maybe which makes it a bit harder for fans, because if that was a jumper, they'd have another year or 2, 3, 4 years after that. But with the flat, it's kind of more of a fast lifespan of racing, I suppose. But yeah, it's a massive pity. It was a big surprise hearing that news on Saturday.
Yeah, it was disappointing for me from the Well perspective, because I thought maybe she was going to be the one that had finally ticked that box for him to win an ARC. I thought she's definitely going to be trying to go there with the connections with the owners and everything else. I thought the ARC was the possibility, and he's finished second in it before. It would have been great for Dermot. Now he's not going to have too many more years left training anyway. So you would have liked to seen him win an ARC and add that to his CV. But there you go. All right, going to move on to another little interesting thing. I don't know what you both think of this, but there was a horse ran in Tipperary last Tuesday, was it? She's called How You CD&E. What a terrible name for a horse. But anyway, refused to race at the second fence, and Jerkeen trains her. Obviously, she's tricky in the extreme because she refused to race completely, didn't start twice in Downpatrick last season. But anyway, the stewards went after she refused to race at the second fence, and they suspended her from racing for 45 days. A couple of things here is, first, what do you do with these sort of horses? And secondly, 45 days isn't much of a sanction, is it? Because she hadn't run for about 7 or 8 months, maybe 10 months, I think, since she last ran. So she was hardly going to run the next 45 days anyway. So there's probably no sanction on her. What do you make of these ones, Johnny?
Yeah, I don't know how you see D&E, the name. I think Ger had a horse with a similar name before, so there's probably a story behind it. To be honest, I don't know. I mean, this is it's very, very tricky for connections here. Steve Vaughan is the owner, and you can imagine the conversations he's having with Jerkeen, because this is a mare who definitely has ability and would pay her way if she was actually if she were consenting to race. But when you get this into your head, we've seen horses like that where you just can't trust them at all. I don't really know what the punishment is, to be honest. I think you can nearly trust the trainer to and the jockey and the owner to kind of come up with a solution here, because the owner is paying $1,500, $2,000 a month to keep this horse going. And if you have a horse that first of all you can't back because you're not sure she's actually going to even get around, and second of all you don't know one day from the next if she's going to refuse or not, and yet you have to pay the bills, you have to pay for the horse going to the races. Owning horses is substantially expensive. It's really expensive. I don't know if these sanctions mean anything, to be honest. I don't know what the IHRB is to do with it.
Yeah, what do you make of it, Emma? Have you ever had horses like that in your dad's? Something that has a quirk like that must be very frustrating.
Sometimes you'd see it with an older horse. Maybe they might get a bit sick of it. You kind of see it at home on the gallop, and they might want to go down, and it's kind of signaling the end of their career, I suppose. But yeah, it's really, really frustrating for connections, kind of like what Johnny said, because she had shown fair ability as in her early days. I think she won a bumper in Downpatrick, beating Wat Pat or Willie Mullins is, and he's rated in the mid 130s now, and I think she gave him a good beating one day in Downpatrick, and she just seems to have turned a bit sour for some reason. I think it was 3 of her last 5 races now she's had issues and like suspending the horse. I suppose, look, stop her running back quickly. They'll have to maybe change something with her routine at home, trying to sweeten her up a bit. But yeah, it's a really frustrating one for Connections, like, because maybe if she had been showing it from the start of her career and she just had shown nothing at all on the track, they'd probably be happy enough to pack it up and give it up with her. But she had shown a fair spark in a few of her races. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah, I'd say it'll be tough for Darkino. He'll have to try and sweeten her up some way, or decide, are they going to keep racing or what?
Yeah, the other thing is, presuming she does come back racing, because she definitely has ability, and she comes back in 45 days' time or 46 days' time, whatever it is that they bring her back to the track, the poor punters on the day at that race meeting won't have a clue about this, that she's refused, 3 times in her last 6 or 7 races and everything else, and is a dodge pot from a punting perspective at the very least. I always think there should be something done here. There should be announcements made. There should be a different cap worn, something that tells the punters that pay into the track, wherever that may be, that this is one that you'd want to watch this one. The same way when you've one coming back from, say a horse is suspended for not trying, which happens, out for 60 days or something for not trying, and then it turns up at some little race meeting somewhere and you don't know that this one didn't try the last day, which would make it more inclined that it would try the next day and everything else. I always think there should be something around that. Anyway, going to move on to one other thing. I'd written a blog this week around all sorts of stuff, but mainly around facts and figures to do with the industry. But one of the things that really caught my eye was the average attendance at race meetings in Ireland has fallen by 60% in the last 20 years. Now, there's obviously some reasons for it, in the sense that, first of all, the peak 20 years ago was the Celtic Tiger years, when everything was booming all around us. And then, as well as that, they've added more fixtures to the list, and some of them are TV racing punter fodder with all-weather tracks and everything else. So you can't expect the attendance to be up at that level on an average. But even so, Johnny, what do you make of this? Is it a big concern for the industry that it's been dropping like this for so many years?
There are a few factors to consider here. I know you were saying pre-show, Vinny, look at the crowd at Croke Park yesterday, but like some of the Gaelic attendances this year haven't been great either. Some other sports are kind of struggling to get crowds post-COVID. But with racing, first of all, I think there's far too much racing. I think there should be 20 or 25% less meetings than there is, and far too many industry meets, like double meetings in the middle of the week, that basically, then you'll have 35-minute gaps. Like they're basically going out of their way to make you not want to go racing. The big factor for me here is, I know the crowds are down, but like, we're in a completely different, when I started getting into racing, to watch racing, you have to go to the betting shop or go to the races. Now you watch it on your phone. Your phone can essentially do everything for you. It's had a massive impact on our lives that we don't even understand. But basically, anyone now can watch racing. If you don't have it on the TV, you can watch it on your phone. If you don't want to, like, say, like me going to Sligo yesterday, like I was gone. Like, if you go to a meeting like that, you're basically gone the whole day. And if you want to watch a couple of races, you can watch it on your phone over the course of a couple of minutes. It's very, very easy. You can bet on your phone. You can do all these things without going racing. It's kind of expensive to go racing at times. The other thing about the attendance figures, which is completely different to other sports, the attendance figures are totally misleading, because they count people who are not paying in. Like, so they count jockeys, they count trainers. You'll have some meetings where there'll literally be 25, 30 people paying in, yet everyone who's at the meeting will be counted as an attendance. That's like counting, the goalkeeper when you're counting the crowd at a football match. So like, the attendance figures, a lot of the HRI stuff is obviously, you take it with a pinch of salt, but the attendance figures are misleading. But at the same time, to HRI, there's so much racing on, it's hard to get people to go racing when, like, a lot of trainers don't go racing themselves. So, if the trainer isn't going, why would a punter go? And when you can watch it on your phone at home, and you can do all these things in the comfort of your own home without having to go to the meeting, it's not that easy to get people racing for a lot of the run of the mill stuff. I feel racetracks have become complacent as well. A lot of them, the media rights money is so easy that that's the bottom line now, and the race course actual gate receipts isn't anywhere near as relevant as it used to be. And I feel some race courses maybe could try harder. I mean, you look at some of the Western tracks, and all the Western tracks really, and there's nearly always a buzz there. For me, some tracks don't try hard enough. Some of the bigger tracks maybe have got a bit complacent, but it's not that easy to get people to go racing day to day. And I suppose the big problem for racing now is, like, I have so many mates. We talk about racing day in, day out. Every day of the week we talk about racing. Most of them don't go racing.
Yeah, I'd be one of them as well, I have to say, at this stage. But no, look, I did my fair shift. I did 30 odd years. I did nearly every day. So I think I'm due a break from going all the time when I've been there, got the T-shirt kind of thing. But you talk about this, about, you can't compare it to the likes of Croke Park or whatever, because the attendances weren't great for some of the football fixtures this year in the GAA. Fair enough, they made a bit of a mess with their planning there, I think. But 82,000 people still go to Croke Park yesterday. It's an expensive day. It's a long day for people like Emma coming up from Cork. You have to go through toll bridges where they were queuing for hours and all the rest of it to get to Dublin for that. But they still turn out in those numbers. We've got Galway coming up now at the end of the month. It's flagship meeting of the whole year for Irish horse racing, always has been. But yet the attendance at this will be around half what it was 20 years ago. Admittedly, in the Celtic Tiger boom, but surely we should be able to draw a crowd at Galway, should we not, Emma?
Yeah, I'm not really sure as they're comparable to the GA really, because in Cork anyway, in particular, like I think everyone kind of nearly feels obliged to follow their team. They turn out at massive numbers, and you go to Croke Park once, twice a year if you're very lucky. So I don't think it's kind of the same as going racing. I know kind of Galway's only once a year as well, but I agree with Johnny on the whole. Like we're in the age of technology, and it's just so easy to see the racing from anywhere. Like you could go to any pub in any town in Ireland and have a great time watching the Galway races for the full week for a fraction of the cost. And it's just probably just a change in culture than it was 20, 30 years ago. People didn't really have as much access to watching racing in other places, and it was just you went racing and you had a good day out. But like Johnny mentioned, some of the tracks in the west seem to kind of defy the statistics of that a bit, like tracks like Ballinrobe. Like I've been to Ballinrobe a few times, only with horses now. I've never been there for a day out, but they seem to always have a massive atmosphere, no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what time the racing starts. Like Johnny said, like tracks put more effort into getting the crowd there and kind of making it more of a sense of community, I suppose, which is kind of like maybe what the GA is. Everyone kind of nearly half feels obliged to go, and maybe that's the feeling around like some of these country tracks as well. Like if the town is talking about building up to the race meeting and stuff like that. So yeah, look, it's a difficult one. I think there's probably a lot of different factors in it. But I think most sports are probably being impacted the same. Like we're talking about 82,000 in Croke Park. It's not the same for all the matches. The football bad attendance for a lot of the games, and the other semi-final in Croke Park as well wasn't near the crowd of that either. So I don't think it's solely a racing problem. I think it's probably just a change of culture all over it, really, isn't it?
As well as that, Emma, like I was, it's only in recent years, Vinny, that I've really begun to understand how important the racecourse manager is. John O'Mahony passed away yesterday, and there was a lot of devastation in sport. And the role of the manager in sport, what he did in 1998, I don't think many people could have guided Galway to an Ireland win in 98. Not to mind Leitrim win in Ireland in 1994, but the racecourse manager is massive. And your board is important as well. And there's some very, very tricky racecourse boards, and a lot of people listening will kind of have an idea who I'm talking about. But the racecourse manager is massive, and if you see some of them, the way that they take it almost as their child. They want it to be special, and they want people to have a good time. A lot has been said about Ballinrobe, but when you go to Ballinrobe or a place like that, you feel like you're welcome, and you feel like the racecourse manager really wants to know that everyone's having a good time, and if you have an issue, he'll deal with it. And there are racecourses like that, and like I still feel a day at the races, if you get the weather, is a lovely, lovely day out. Like yesterday, at my little booth in Sligo, there's a little bench, and this lady sat down and she was going to get up because like that was where we were supposed to be sitting. I said, "No, you're grand. I'm kind of on the move today." And her friend came over. She was a lady, 88 years of age, and I said, "Is your husband still alive?" "Oh, he is. Yeah, he's 91. He's just gone. He's back on a horse there, right?" They bred the dam of Doran's Pride, and I was chatting to them for a good while. And Michael Horrigan came over, did a great chat about like the days of old, and the horses that were running yesterday, and the social aspect to it was absolutely lovely. There were a load of young people in Sligo yesterday, and I guarantee you, if you canvassed like 100 people at Sligo yesterday, they pretty much 100 of them had a good time. They enjoyed themselves. To see the horses in the flesh with the sun gleaming on them, it's still a lovely experience. See brilliant finishes. Even at Bellewstown the other day, there was actually a bit of buzz when the horses were coming up the straight. There was an atmosphere, like, and we need that. But if you create meetings where if you bring in a race goer who hasn't been at the meeting and he or she goes to the meeting, there's hardly anyone there, there's no atmosphere, that's problematic because the chances are he or she won't go back.
Yeah. Can be a long day at a race meeting if there's no atmosphere. There's no doubt about it. If you haven't got a purpose to be there, as in owning a horse, training a horse, or working in the media or whatever else. Just the other thing you mentioned there about boards at race courses, I see Frances Crowley has been added to the board at Galway, which is an interesting turn of events. I would have thought nice to see female representative on a board as well, which is always good. Frances, she's back training as well, hasn't she? 1 or 2 horses for the daughter, Hannah Smullen, as well. So hopefully she'll enjoy her time there in Galway. That's one of the most progressive ones. You talk about those tracks in the West, they definitely have held the flag flying, haven't they, between Sligo, Ballinrobe and Galway over the years, and let's hope we see big crowds at Galway anyway.
We'll say, Vinny, like Galway's, I don't know, as John B. Keane described Galway as a state of mind. Like Galway, Galway's a race meeting, but Galway is something that I think other tracks can maybe look to create something if they can similar to it, because Galway's about meeting someone for the first time, falling in love, or meeting someone for the 100th time and meeting that person every year at the Galway races. And the social aspect to it is so special, regardless of what horses you back. If you don't back any horse, and like, it's very hard to put it's hard to compare any event to the Galway race in the sense of just the people you meet and the feeling of the continuity of doing what you did 12 months ago. And that's still special. Like, and you can knock racing, and God knows there are lots of people in the media who just are constantly down on racing. Like, let's not forget how special it can be. And like, I was talking to 2 of the Fahy brothers at Bellewstown and Sligo about Galway. Peter said, I go down there for the week with the wife, and it was like what Galway even means to the Fahys is special. Like, and Aido McGuinness, I think, goes down for the week, which is very rare, and we shouldn't lose sight of what we have as well.
No, and Galway make great efforts. Every year there's something new in the Galway racetrack that they've added in to enhance the experience for everyone. There's always something they've added, and I love that fact about it, whether it's a tunnel to get the crowd in from under the track for the main road, or it's simple things like they put in these stands where you can leave your beer in the middle of anywhere, kind of thing. Rather than other places, people drop their bottles, they leave them on the ground, people are falling over drinks and everything else. But in Galway, they always seem to have something that they've added to it that enhances the experience. So let's hope they've done something else for this year as well. Anyway, that's us more or less wrapped up. I just need a horse off you to follow that you saw last week. I might start off at one. I saw a 2-year-old colt run in Tipperary the other day, Powerful Nation. Andy Slattery and his son Andrew rode it. I think it was a tricky customer now, admittedly. I think it needs to be just popped there on the line, but it was very unlucky in Tipperary because it was about to be popped there on the line and it stumbled and was only beaten in a photo. So I think that's one to watch the next day. Powerful Nation, that's one for me. Anyway, Emma, what have you got?
I actually went for the same race. I thought Donica's filly that won that race. She won a good maiden in Dundalk, I think, back in April. She beat that Ammo filly, California Dreamer, who ended up being a pretty high level performer. I think things didn't go right for her the next day in Naas, but she won there, that listed race in Tipperary at a big enough price. But Donica seemed to speak very favorably of her. Thought she could be, a group filly in waiting. So I think she's probably going to put in the tracker and see how she progresses from there. Because I was impressed by her, and I say she could step forward for it again.
There you go, 2 from the one race. Now we have it. Johnny, have you got a third one from that race?
No, actually, strangely enough, I'm going to give La Hacienda. I don't know if you know the bar, Vinny. And you mightn't be in Dublin very often. There's a bar called Hacienda, which is kind of it's kind of in between Smithfield and the city centre. It's off very much off the beaten track. And Taylor Swift only rocked up there after her concert the other day, which is completely mad. So you imagine just having a pint in Hacienda. Next thing, Taylor Swift, like a billionaire who's like probably the most popular person on the planet, just rocks up and orders whatever she orders. And I think Hacienda might have been one of the music venues that Joy Division would have played at in Manchester back in the 80s. So whatever the horse is called after anyway, it's trained by Matthew Smith. I get a great kick out of father and son teams doing well in race, particularly it's a young jockey, and James, who's like, I think he's only 18 or 19. He rode the horse in Sligo yesterday. I should have done my homework and actually seen what revised market cost. It ran off 91. It absolutely bolted up. It's a horse by Free Eagle. It's not the biggest in the world. On its flat form, it was well handicapped. It's rated 88 on the flats. It was run off 91. But I imagine if they can find something in Galway, I think Matthew Smith's a very, very good trainer. And the way this horse won, probably got to the front a bit too soon. James said afterwards, I'll be following her the next day regardless of what weight she got.
Great stuff. Well, that's us from us. Everything from us, I should say. Now, so make sure you gamble responsibly. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back again next week. And we'll be back on Friday, no doubt, with a form scan for the weekend. Looking ahead to whatever action we have this weekend. There's good stuff in the UK, isn't there?
Yeah, July Cup this weekend. So trying to decide what we do. Yeah, Friday I suppose, but there's a good race. The Falmouth as well on Friday. There's a few Irish contenders over there. I think Joe Donica's good filly Port Fortuna, and Paddy Toomey has a filly entered as well. So good action at the weekend now as well. So it's kind of that's the good thing about the flat. I think it kind of keeps rolling all the way through the season. There's always something on the weekend.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, listen, thanks for your contributions, and we'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.